Welcome back to another episode of the Moments of Joy podcast. If this is your first time to our show, this is a show for parents raising children with special needs and those that want to learn with us. So welcome to the show. And if you are an MVP, I greet you at the top of every episode to say thank you. And thank you for being our most valuable player. And thank you for coming back again. You guys press play on every episode. You share, and you are the backbone to this community. So thank you. We are going on 6 years in very soon. In August, it'll be 6 years of our podcast. And I can't even believe I'm saying it, but I'm excited that we've been able to be consistent this long with building. And I'm excited about the future. Today, our episode is about mental health. And my guest today is Dr. Tiyahri Wilson. She is a psychologist, and she is going to talk to us about prioritizing ourselves, our mental health, and all the things. So welcome to the show.
Hello. Yes, thank you. So excited.
You are so welcome. So I had the pleasure of knowing you and getting to know you, listening to your pours at different times, preaching, teaching, and about mental health.
Right.
So when I thought about this episode, you were the first one that came to mind because I know you would pour and really leave them with something to think about. And so today's Monday, coincidentally.
Yes.
And this is when we record, but it's also my day that I call Mental Health Monday.
Yeah.
So online, I'm always sharing mental health things and encouraging families to prioritize their mental health. And it is because probably in the pandemic, 2020, at the end of 2020, 2021, I found myself on the verge of I'm going to slap everybody in this house, nervous breakdown, and then on the other side, I'm okay. Yeah. But it was a thin line. And then that was also the time I started to seek therapy. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm having a lot of anxiety. I don't know what's going on. My son is not sleeping at night, so we have autism to work through. Yeah. He also has congenital heart disease. And I realized with Mason early on, I was just going, but I was working through postpartum depression. I really didn't know. And I think when I started therapy, I realized it was a snowball of continual things, actually. Not even starting with Mason's. It was all the trauma that has snowballed into, boom, this point where now I have PTSD.
Yeah.
And so...
And I think that was very common, though, for a lot of people during the pandemic. I think it exposed a lot of the things that were already going on with us prior to us all being in crisis together simultaneously. So I think it sounds like it was very overwhelming for you, but also a lot of good came out of it because it forced you to address some things that it sounds like you hadn't addressed prior to that. And so that has happened to a lot of us and for a lot of us. So I'm really excited about having this conversation today.
Yeah, I think when you said good and bad, this is where community came in because before the pandemic, I wasn't really online like that. Yeah. But I started going on Clubhouse, which was an audio app. Yeah. And then our community blew up there and then our social media. So, I'll say that was the good that came out of it. Yeah. It was really a lot.
Yeah, it forced you to have community, and it forced a lot of us to find our tribes and to find our communities. A lot of people, I think, especially for those who are more introverted, it forced us into a place of saying, I cannot do this by myself. I need help. I need safe spaces to have dialogue. I need people that I can talk to about what I'm going through. And so when you talk about what you were dealing with already, right? Pre-pandemic, pre-Mason's mom, and then having what we would call kind of like comorbid, issues, kind of snowballing, compounding issues, right? To kind of manifest themselves in that season. I would imagine that also being a mom, right, to a son who has this autism diagnosis and this congenital heart failure, I can only imagine how incredibly difficult adjusting to all of these things were and managing all these things were. And that's why the mental health pieces are critical for all caregivers, for all parents, but especially for those children who have special needs.
Yeah.
It's a very real need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so today I prioritize it. And when I use the word prioritize, a lot of times parents say, I don't know how, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you have to put it on the calendar because you're going to keep being burned out. This is something that's going to never end.
Yeah.
And like my mom has a best friend, and her best friend is, maybe in her late 50s, and she has a grown autistic son. He's probably 27, but he's really still a baby, like a toddler. And she talks about that load as well. And I had to encourage her. So we can, if we don't get in this place, I'm a young woman now, I'll never have this consistency of prioritizing myself, and then will come in health concerns and things like that.
Absolutely. It becomes a real issue down the road. And it's an issue that grows, that snowballs. And I think what we have to do is we have to look at how we all view prioritizing, right? So when you think about something that is a priority, that means that it is not an option. It's a mandate for your life.
Right.
Prioritizing your well-being, prioritizing your mental health is not an option. You don't have a choice. And the price that you pay later will be far greater than the price that you pay today. So we all, I was going to say you, we all have to do that. But especially those parents who have children with special needs, because the demand is greater. It's more emotionally taxing, the weight of it. I like to call it, it's a call. It's a ministry, right? Mothering, parenting, caring for our children, these children it's different. And it requires so much more. So if you don't make it a priority, your well-being a priority, you will not be able to show up in the way that you want to show up. And you certainly won't last as long as you may need to last, because you didn't allow the first things to be first, which was your well-being.
That was good. Wow. That was good. When, we're describing being burned out already.
Yeah.
We already come to that point where we're like totally done. But what are some ways or some signs where we can know, okay, this is beginning to become a problem if I don't prioritize it now, before we get to anxiety, before we get to crying, before we get to that point?
The first thing that you have to do is that you have to be self-aware, right? You have to know you, and you have to be able to recognize when you just don't feel like yourself. When you notice that something is off with me, I just don't feel like me. And a lot of times we're experiencing those things, but we don't have language for it. And we don't recognize it, or we haven't identified it as what it is, which is oftentimes it's burnout. And burnout exposes, it's an indication that I have not prioritized my well-being, my mental health, my self-care. I haven't done it. So when I'm not feeling like myself, when I am chronically fatigued, right, I'm always tired. No matter how much rest I get, no matter if I'm taking my supplements, no matter if I'm eating well, I'm just tired, and I don't know why. That is one of the more persistent symptoms of burnout. The other is depression or hopelessness. When you start to lose your desire to just do anything, right? I just don't want to get out of bed today. I don't want to leave my house. And especially the things that you enjoy, right? So if you have like these hobbies or things you love to do, and now all of a sudden you just don't have a desire to do those things, typically or oftentimes that is a symptom of burnout. So it's really about just recognizing when you're not yourself. Another very persistent symptom of burnout is irritability, right? So you realize that your capacity is just not what it typically is. I just don't have a tolerance for the crying today. I don't have a tolerance for the upset today. I don't have a tolerance. I don't want anybody to ask me for anything. I don't want to be bothered. And then the things that used to not bother you, all of a sudden kind of become elevated. It's a big deal now. So those are the things that you have to be watchful for. But it requires two things. It requires the self-awareness, right? So really knowing you, but also you have to be in touch with yourself. You have to be in tune. You can't ignore you. When you know you're tired and your body is saying, I am tired and I need rest, you have to find ways, even if it's incrementally, to get those rest or get that rest, even if it's power naps, even if it's pulling on your community. Hey, I need 20 minutes. I need 30 minutes. I need an hour. Can you help me? That's how you know that, hey, burnout it's on the way, because I'm more irritable and fatigued, more so than normal. My capacity has made a drastic shift or change. And it's time for me to pull on my community again.
I think pulling on our community is a hard thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't like to ask for help. Number one, because we know our child is already a lot. But two, I think people just have a problem asking for help in general.
Yeah.
Um, so what encouragement would you have to kind of knock down that barrier and that wall? And just like, even if it's one person you could trust and pour out to, because I hear that a lot, I have nobody. But I think we can create our own community.
Absolutely. 100%. And I feel like that's something that you've done beautifully within this community, right? Not only are you finding ways to foster joy, right, in this call, in this the love that you all demonstrate for the children that you care for, but I think also you are teaching how to create community. And you're right, it is about seeking out or creating your own community so that you can have one, maybe two people that you can kind of call on to get that incremental support that you need. It may not be as often as you'd like for it to be, but if you have one or two people that you can trust, then those one or two people can make a substantial difference long term. And that's what the goal has to be. It has to be about not just how this is going to impact me right now, today, in this moment, but I've got to be able to have longevity. I have to be able to self-preserve. And if I don't pull on my community, there will be no longevity. There will be no self-preservation for me because I will burn out and be no good to myself or to others. So how do you combat those barriers? You have to put, you have to make yourself the priority. And I believe that when people are saying, I don't want to ask, that is an indication that you have not prioritized your wellness. And so how are you going to show up for the people, for the children that you're caring for, to make sure that they are well when you have not first made sure that you are well? The two do not go, you can't do it. Right. Dichotomous. You can't do it. You have to first make you well, make sure that you're well. Then you can do the same for your child or for your children. That's what it's about. You have to kind of make peace with the fact that this is necessary. I don't have a choice but to pull on my community. I don't have a choice but to ask for help. I have a choice but to take advantage of every resource that's available to me to make sure that I'm well.
Absolutely. I'm thinking about three things. Number one, when we are on an airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first and then help someone else or your child. Your vest on first and then help. And then number two, there were two people. One, there was a woman on the news who, she had two nonverbal autistic daughters and she committed suicide and her children were found in the bed deceased. And so I could only, and her mother said on the interview, I had no idea it was that hard. And I was like, you had no idea? That meant that her mom wasn't her safe person and wasn't someone who she could trust to tell this is a lot. Maybe she felt judged. And so, and I want to just pause there for a moment for people who might be the family member or the friend to avail yourself in your heart to be someone who can be trusted and supported and non-judgmental, because this is not the same journey. Like Mason is 7 and he is not potty trained. So sometimes when I'm in public, I find myself making sure I'm pulling his pants up, his shirt is down, because I know someone's going to judge him because he has a pull-up on. They don't understand, you know, but it shouldn't be my friend or my family member that judges.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, one of the things that we also have to do is we have to be open to what our community may look like. It may not be the people that we expect. It may literally be someone who is completely not related to you, someone who is familiar with your journey, or maybe unfamiliar, someone that you may have to take the time to kind of educate and explain some things to, but they have a heart and a willingness to show up, to serve and to assist and to provide support and resources in whatever way they can, to offer a listening ear, to pick up groceries, whatever, or small menial things that will ultimately add up to making a huge difference. And so you're right. It's not only about changing our expectation as far as where that community, what it will look like, but also it is about encouraging those of us who have people in our life who are caring for children who have special needs to show up. If you love them, demonstrate that love.
Yeah.
Availing yourself in any way. And some people may be saying, oh, I'm not sure. I don't want to mess up, or I don't want to cause more harm, or I'm not really sure what to do.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to ask questions. This is an opportunity to do your own research, to read books, to listen to these podcasts, right? Like what we're doing right now, so that you can assist them so that we don't have more stories like a mom with the tune-up.
Right. I remember last night I was sitting at the kitchen table and I was just randomly, like the Lord had brought to my remembrance people who have been there for me along Mason's journey. For his first 2 years of life, when he had 3 heart surgeries, there were people who came to the hospital, and it wasn't the people I expected. It wasn't my close friends. It wasn't even who I thought should be there. It was random people who were there for me. I remember we had Mason and we knew he was going to be born needing surgery, but there was a miscommunication between his doctors and the cardiologist. So we thought, oh, he's fine, he didn't need surgery. All of a sudden, on day 3, I come down to the NICU to see him, and he has an IV in his head, and he's hooked up to these machines, and I just start crying and screaming. I'm like, nobody told me they were putting an IV in him. What's going on? And they're prepping him for surgery. And had not talked to us yet. So the nurse came over, and she's like, listen, they cannot do anything that you have not consented and approved. And she said, you demand to speak to a doctor. And she taught me in that moment, like, how to be an advocate. And so I remember losing it. My husband was like, why are you crying? I'm like, why am I crying? I flipped on him, okay, because I'm hormonal. It's day 3. Our baby's over here. You ask me why I'm crying. And so he walked out of the NICU and left me with the baby to, kind of just work through my feelings. And I turned around, and my first lady walked through the door. And I hadn't called her. I didn't know she was coming. But I just turned around and fell in her arms. And she just prayed for me in that moment. She didn't give me any words of wisdom. She had none. But she was there. It was someone else at his second surgery knitted a blanket and brought it to me for him. It was other people who came just to bring us food and just talk, Nora, talk. How are you? What's going on? Go down memory lane, whatever we wanted to talk about. But those moments mattered. 2 other of my family members, my 2 cousins, they're pastors. They came over at midnight. To the hospital before surgery and prayed for us and just commanded the angels in the room and prayed over the doctors. And those moments I remember, and I think I'll remember them for the rest of my life. But showing up makes a difference.
Showing up makes a difference. And I love how you talked about how the nurse in that moment taught you how to advocate. And I think that that's one of the things, or one of the ways that we can show up to show support that many of us take for granted. Sometimes just being an advocate, just being a voice, just sharing awareness, just educating other people. If you're the person in the store that sees, like you were sharing about Mason, seeing the baby with the pull-up on, people are looking, oh yeah, he's a baby. You see that baby. Especially you see that baby's on the water. You see that baby. What are you doing, baby? Don't pay these people no mind. Whatever needs to be said, words of comfort, and kind of advocate in whatever way that a person feels comfortable doing so. But as you said, it's ultimately about showing up. And so I think that the reason that so many of our parents and caregivers to children with special needs do have difficulty kind of making their wellness a priority is because they need more advocates. The need for more support. So we, as a community, that's why community is so important, to do a better job of showing.
Absolutely. Another thing I thought about was a caregiver me and my sister followed on TikTok. It was an older woman. Her husband had got Alzheimer's and dementia, and she was caring for him, and her doctor told her that she needed to put him in a home so that she could rest and relax. And she didn't. She shared that on TikTok. She said she refused, and she looked seemingly healthy, and she had her grandchildren with her helping as much as they could, but she passed away. And we were so heartbroken, and he outlived her. shortly after, within that year, he passed away too. But I was like, wow, we don't prioritize ourselves.
Yeah.
He would have been okay because he didn't know anyway. And so I think our children are going to be okay. My other children, me saying no to everything on that one day. My son came home from college and he started asking me to do things. I was like, oh, it's Monday, honey. Yeah. No, I will not. You have to know about my mental health Mondays.
No, I love that. You are living it. You're doing it. And I think that, where some people struggle is that they don't know how to do it. If you're not able to have an entire mental health Monday where you say no, you may have to have those mental health moments. So the first 30 minutes of every day or each time before noon, don't ask me for anything. I can't do it. It's about creating those regimens, right? So that's very regimented, right? Every Monday, don't ask me for a thing. I love you, but see me tomorrow, right? Maybe I can show up for you. But you found ways to show up for yourself and to take care of yourself, not just only by having a therapist or seeing a therapist, but in your practical lifestyle and way of living. And I think that that's important. So every person, right, who has taken on this load, who has answered this call to show up for their children, have to do the same thing. Gotta do it.
And can we talk about therapy a little bit? Because our people and a lot of people in general just do not like therapy. They think it's for someone who's crazy or, nothing's wrong. And therapy, you don't have to go for something being wrong. You can go because you moved. You want to talk through moving. You can go for simple things. But I think sometimes it's okay. And I want to encourage parents who have children with special needs to have a therapist, to find a therapist, to seek therapy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so to the people who kind of subscribe to that mindset, right, that I should only see a therapist if something is wrong, I would say to them, right, if you are you own a vehicle, right, you have a vehicle of some kind, perhaps, you don't take your car to a shop only when you believe there's an issue, right? There's regular maintenance that your vehicle requires. Wow. You have to have an oil change. You have to change out with air filters. You have to your wipers wear down, and you have to change out those. There is like regular maintenance, right? So every vehicle will let you know at this number of mileage you should have this maintenance done. At this number of mileage you should have that number.
Yeah,
I think you have to begin, or we have to see our mental health in the same way as it relates to therapy. Therapy is not just for crisis. Therapy is not just for when things are breaking down or when something is wrong. Therapy should be used as a form of maintenance. I'm maintaining me. I'm maintaining my mental health. I want to make sure that when crisis happens, right, because it will happen, because it is a part of life, I am built up enough, strong enough, equipped enough that when that thing comes, if it takes me down a notch, I have somewhere to go. I have somewhere to go to. Many people find themselves in an emotional or mental deficit because they have not done the maintenance prior to the crisis occurring.
Yeah.
So
good.
Gotta have a therapist. If you're going to the hair salon, if you're having your nails done, if you're like me and you're not gonna miss those last wins, you understand? You need to have your maintenance. A therapist is there to help provide you with that kind of care. It's continuous, it's consistent, and it's to make sure that you're well no matter what season you find yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. Maintenance. Yeah, we have to maintain our mental health, our good mental health.
How to do it.
Yeah, because it's a lot. We're almost guaranteed on this journey to have times of high stress. And not all equated to the child, but it's all the other things that we have in life, being a wife, being a mom to other children, and then trying to get that in. You got to run the therapies for the child, and sometimes just by default, your life can be taken over by this thing. And so many people have very high stress days where they're up all night. I remember my high stress season, Mason was up for like 3 or 4 nights in a row. He would go to bed at 8 and be up at 11 and then up all night. And then the next night again. And that's part of the reason I don't work now. I left my career because one day my husband just looked at me and was like, you don't have to go back. I'll take care of us. And I was like, all right, goodbye, because I can't not. Yeah, we were like, okay, it's your turn. I got to work tomorrow. You got to be up at night. And then marriages are breaking down because you can't leave your child with anyone because they're nonverbal. It's so much molestation and abuse that runs rampant with typical kids, let alone a child that's nonverbal. So then you have that fear as well. So it brings you into a place of isolation. And so this is like a clarion call, if you will, to like community. You gotta plan for the times of high stress too. Mason, I remember one time I went out, I had got just a regular pedicure, manicure, and I went and got some tea. I came home, I was in such a good mood, and it was a rough night, Mason. Had a meltdown for hours, and I said, if I did not have a good day and pour into myself, I would have been so overwhelmed.
Yeah, you've been in that emotional deficit we're talking about. Had already had an opportunity to kind of build yourself up some. So what happened? Although it kind of brought you down a bit, it didn't move you into a place of deficit. So that's what's most important. That's why the prioritization is a mandate. It is a requirement. It's not an option. And when you make it an option, again, what it costs you later, it's much more than what it costs you in those moments or for those meltdowns and those difficult days. So I think that's a great example of why we have to do that. And again, pulling on your community. And I appreciate that you talked about the impact on marriages, because I don't think that a lot of people take that into consideration. Either those of us who are kind of advocates and on the outside and being supportive and providing whatever support that we can, we're not thinking about they need a date. They need a date night. They need an hour. 6 minutes. They need time alone. That doesn't require them again to be consumed by the care of their.
Absolutely. So that's a mandate too.
Yes, it is.
To go out and just take a minute with your spouse and have some time. And so I hope that this episode was encouraging to you guys to prioritize your mental health. You've heard me say it over and over and over again, but I hope you watch this episode and you're like, you know what? I'm going to make some changes. Like Dr. Wilson said, it can be small. What are some small things they can do that will help them to fill their cup?
It's really about doing the things that you love. That's really what fills your cup. I think that we've kind of been in an era over the last several years, and that we tried to give a blanketed response to what you should do. But what fills me may not be the thing that fills you. For you, it may be being able to get those manicures and those pedicures. For me, it may just be, I need 20 minutes of silence where I can just sit, where I can just have clarity of thought, where I can read a book or listen to some music. So it depends on what you enjoy. The ideal goal is just to find the time or to create the time so that you can have those moments to fill you, whatever it is. I need to just sit in some warm water. Or I just need, some people are filled up by just being near water, listening to water sounds, and they just want to sit by the water. I need 20 minutes just to sit and look at this water, look at this Houston waterfall. Right? Because that fills them up. That's healing for them. So it's first about identifying what fills me or what fills you. Then it's about where can I find those 20 minutes every single day for me? Because guess what? Those minutes add up. Those incremental efforts add up, and those are what ultimately make the difference. Where we've been in error is that we've been thinking, I've got to have 2 or 3 hours. I've got to have every Friday night. I need to be, no. Small increments make a difference, right? It's kind of the equivalent of when we found out as researchers that people who take 2 weeks vacation once a year experience greater burnout than people who take mini vacations every 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
Right? So those who took the mini vacations every 3 to 4 months were far more replenished, less likely to burn out, more work-life balance, more enjoyment and fulfillment. They did so much better than the people who said, well, every year we go to Disney for
right.
Who came back tired because of all the planning and everything else. So it's kind of the same concept. 20 minutes every day. 30 minutes every 15, whatever you can give yourself the gift of prioritizing your wellness and filling yourself up, right? Taking time for you.
In stress management, I was just thinking about while you were talking, in those moments where like our child may be screaming. I remember when Mason would have really bad meltdowns, I would say to my son, "Do you hear him screaming? I cannot talk to you right now. And you have to talk to me in a minute. I'll come back to you in a minute." But what can we do in those moments not to scream and lose it, but like be able to manage our stress well so we're not melting down with the child?
Right, right. So one of the things, and this is why therapy is so important, that parents can do, caregivers can do with your therapist, is capacity building exercises.
Oh, wow.
Right? There are ways to enlarge your mental territory, right? There are ways to increase your capacity. So, incorporating some capacity building exercises can help you in those moments, so that the things that used to kind of, set us off or cause us to become kind of, upset and have those meltdowns along with our children, those will become less frequent and we'll have more emotional control.
Wow.
The other thing is kind of accepting that this is very normal for your family, for your lifestyle. I think that culturally, right, because that behavior is considered abnormal, right, unacceptable for the culture, we're saying, oh my God, my child is doing something that is outside of what is considered a cultural norm. We don't do that. We don't yell, we don't scream, we don't throw this, but they do. And that is a part of their experience. That is part of their growth. And so guess what? That is a part of the culture of this family, this home. So you will feel less overwhelmed in those moments if you accept that this happened, right? Because the mountain is only as big as we make it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
See what I'm saying? So it feels unbearable because we have made it so big.
Yeah.
But when it becomes normal, this is a part of our experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This too shall pass. This moment will pass. We've been here.
Yeah.
It's about accepting and normalizing what is going to be a part of your experience.
Yeah. That's really good. I remember going to church with Mason. There was a time that I would sit all the way in the back because I knew like he would have a moment, but then something just clicked, like, I don't care what, I'm not sitting in the back anymore. We're going to sit right here in this second row.
Right.
And if these people see us more, they will get used to the fact that children are different.
Yes.
Some children are going to have different needs. And don't look over here like you never heard a baby cry. Or a child be upset.
Absolutely. And so that is a part of the understanding piece and the normalizing piece. Normalizing that this is going to happen sometime.
Yeah.
And that's why the advocacy is so important and the education is so important and why these conversations have to happen. So that in those spaces where perhaps people are not accustomed to it, you have to become accustomed to it because this is going to happen. And as you said, it's no different.
Yeah.
Baby cries. Baby's crying. You're not going to
No. Right.
Right? Where are we all turning in audience? So it's happening right now. Whereas we should be saying, hey, Mom, are you okay? You need to work something?
Yeah.
Right?
You've always been good at that.
That's that. I think that was one of our initial
experiences. Well,
Mason was really upset. I said, hey, you stay here. I'm going to go and what would you like to eat? And I'll go and get, and what would you like to eat? You said this, and that. Because you were ready to exit.
I was ready to leave.
And it's right. And can't allow you to not be a part of those positive experiences because of a moment. You understand? And so I think that what happens is that parents have to understand that this is a moment. We're not going to milestone it every time.
There you go.
It's a moment like this. Every time it is distress. It's a moment. So your response to it is going to be based upon your ideal around it, how your perception of that moment, what you make it. So it will, again, only be as big a moment as you make it.
That's now good.
Internally, you will remain calm. Because okay, this is what he does.
Yeah,
she does.
And that takes practice.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's here first. It's cognitive first.
Right.
It is accepting it. It is normalizing it. And then it is mentally preparing for and understanding that it happened today and it's going to happen again, but it's okay. If I got past this moment, I'll get to the next and the next and the one after.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. You've given us some nuggets today to live by. That capacity building got me. I'm going to go home looking up some capacity building exercises and do that for myself and use that even in work. Sometimes I'll start working during the day. I'm like, whoo, I'm burnt out. I have to go lay down.
Yeah.
But I need to do even capacity building exercises with that.
Yeah, very amazing.
Yep, before I get to another capacity,
Uh-huh.
I haven't built myself up to get there.
Good.
Yes. So we're going to just end with some last words. I know this whole episode has been prioritizing. If you need to, look up the definition of prioritizing.
Yes.
And prioritize yourself for your child, but most of all for you, so that at the end of the day, when we grow older as women and as men, or, if you are older, grow older. We're all going to continue to grow older, but you've taken care of yourself in your mental health and your physical health all in one so that you can be the best for yourself. Any last words, Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, absolutely. So, last words would be to all of our parents, right? Understand first and foremost that you are not alone, that there is an entire community of caregivers who are sharing in your same experiences. And as you kind of embark on this journey of prioritizing your wellness and your self-care, understand that that should be done without guilt, without shame, and unapologetically. In order to be the very best caretaker that you can be for your child or for your loved one, you have to first take care of you. And so take advantage of all of the resources and all of the information that's available. Remember that that wellness for you may have to come in increments, 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, but make sure that every single day that you are taking care of you.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you. And you guys check out her page. I'll link it to the description of the show where you can reach her on Instagram and follow everything that she's doing. And always remember that you always have the option to choose joy. All right. Bye-bye.